right, let's talk about cutting holes. So we'll start off with the easiest hole cut there is, which is if you have like a nice crosshair like this, and you want to just cut like an octagonal circular cut into here. It works really well for hole cuts because you have basically three pointed arcs all the way around. Okay, so you'll see that in a second. But the first thing we want to do is, if we're going to keep our corners, we're going to go ahead and just lay this out like that. And I got trucks driving past my house in the background, so hopefully it's not interfering too much. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to hold shift and we get a midpoint. And then I just keep holding shift and I keep getting the midpoint. And then when you get to the last point, you have to let go of shift. And you just click and hit enter, and then it's closed. And then what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and just click from the outside point here and hold shift. And then we can just hold shift again and then go back out and close that off. And we'll do the same thing on the bottom. If you're in the center of the world, you can easily do this with like symmetry. So take that into mind. You don't have to do both sides. Anyway, so we've got this set out. This is the basic start that we need because we have our 1, 2, 3 points, 1, 2, 3 points. But what we want to do is actually shape this into a circle. Back in the old days, we used to have to put a guide out here, which I'll show you later. I'll take a guide out and cut around it. Now we can just use the circularize tool, which is right there. So the circularize tool has a bunch of different settings in it, and if you're on a curved surface, you want to play around with the alignment. I'm sure we'll get to examples of that later. But one of the things you might find too is that if you're working on kind of an odd surface, you might get some kind of weird twisting like this, and you have this twist to adjust that. So if it's off, you can adjust it. In a perfect scenario like this, we don't really have to worry about it too much. You can add divisions in here, but we don't want to do that because we're going to do that with the subdivision surface. And of course, evenly distributed, of course, we want that. So anyway, let's go ahead and just hit enter, or Q, I should say. And then we're going to go ahead and just scale this up a little bit, like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and run an edge loop around this. So I will go ahead and just offset in a little bit. And then I'll go ahead and delete the center. So now this is a nice hole cut. So if we hit 3 on our keyboard, we have our outer corners held. We have our inner corners, or I should say our inner shape is, beautiful and smooth and perfectly round. So that is the simplest version of the hole cut. Everything gets harder from here. Yay! Okay, so here we have a different scenario where I pulled out a guide, which is just a curve circle right there, scaled it up a little bit. And I have this inside this grid, and notice that it's inside all of the polygons. There's like these polygons going all the way around surrounding this thing. That's going to make our life a little bit easier. We're going to work on situations where that doesn't happen and we could still cut holes. So, all right, so how are we going to start this off? Well, let's go ahead and get our cut tool out, and we will just cut everywhere where we get an intersection here. Like I said, this is still kind of one of the easier ways to do this when you have this contained within a set of polygons. So we have to ask ourselves, once we get the circle done, where do we put our extra cuts? And the answers actually presents itself with where are the n-gons. So you could see we have n-gons basically in the corners. So we got to cut from the corners into the midsection like this. So we already know how to do those kind of cuts, and we're just going to keep going and cutting in like so. So then we can just go ahead and select the mid polygon and hit shift greater than so that we can grow our selection. So now all we have to do is circularize, and here you see this is where the twist is going to come in because for some reason it's off. So I'm going to go ahead and use the twist and try to redistribute it nicely. And then I'm just going to go ahead and use my scale tool and hold shift and extrude in instead of using the extrude tool, which I do sometimes. So we'll just scale it in, holding shift. There we go. And we can delete out the center and hit 3 on your keyboard and check our work. Perfect. So you can see outer edges holding, inner edges nice and smooth, evenly distributed. And even if we didn't have the circularized tool, we could eyeball the distribution as well. Okay, so here's number 3. Now, realistically, 3 is not much different than number 2 that we just looked at, but we're going to talk about redistributing polygons after we make these cuts, because it's going to basically mess up sort of our nice quad layout. So let's go ahead and just get cutting here. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. And one of these times, I'm going to show you what we would have to do if we did not have the circularized tool. The circularized tool makes this workflow so much easier. All right, remember we have our n-gons here, so we're going to go ahead and just get those. Now, so here's the reason why I'm showing you this, is because there's going to be times where you're modeling something and the circle you need to cut is not conveniently placed in the middle of a bunch of polygons, and you can't move it. So in those cases, what do you do? All right, so let's just grow our selection. I think we got everything. We will use the circularized tool. You can see the twist popping in there. I'm looking at the horizontal line right here, trying to get that straight. That's kind of where I'm going there. Okay, so now we've got that. That really wasn't too hard. It was basically the same thing, but look at the distribution of polygons here. So this doesn't look great, because if you need to flex this, or if you needed to, have this curved or something like that, this is going to look like weird pinchiness. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to add some edges in here. So let's just go ahead, and I'm just going to eyeball them. I'm just going to pick what I think looks like the center of these, and then I'll end it right there. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing down here. We're just going to go ahead and basically build this kind of border around here, and what that's going to do is distribute the polygons better. Now, we could do something like this if you like. You can come out here, and you can distribute that out differently and just remove these edges like so. But look, we have an issue here, right? So we need a way to get rid of these triangles. So how do we get rid of those triangles? We can just go ahead and cut the triangles out by going like this and distributing another edge through here. So go like that, hit enter, remove these two edges, and now we have still all quads, but we have a nice layout of quads, so that they're not kind of as uneven. And if you want, obviously you can edge slide these and move them around a little bit if you feel like you can get a better balance of topology. Of course, we haven't really done this part where we've edge looped this, so we can just go ahead and scale it in like so, hit delete, check our work. There we go. We could see we don't have a holding corner here, so that would be something we'd have to cut in if we wanted to keep that. But that's pretty easy. We just cut across and cut up. So anyway, yep, that's how we're going to end up basically cutting holes when they're a little bit off center, and we need to maybe redistribute some of the polygons so that they're more balanced and not getting so stretched. On to number 4. All right, so here we go. Number 4. Now we're going to see, this one's really inconvenient because we have it not just being placed right inside of, all quad. It's not being contained, let's say. I mean, you could say it's being contained in this outer part here, right? But it's not being contained when it comes to like anything on the inside, and we have like one that's going right through where a vert would be, and we have here where it's going to be like a triangle. And this is where you could still use the circularized tool, but the concept of what we're doing with this is where it's important. So I'm going to go ahead and try to go over the concept. So if I was to go ahead and just start cutting the circle here, you can see obviously like you're going to get a very, very wacky shape that obviously, let's go ahead and just circularize it so you can see what this looks like. Because obviously, I mean, the circularized should work. It should actually, you know, kind of make this the shape that we want and distribute stuff. I hate when I don't know why this multi-component just turns itself on all the time. I don't tell it to turn on, it just turns on its own. I'm gonna have to find out how to turn that off because it's driving me crazy. So we can go ahead and circularize this, right? You can do that. And, you know, you could go ahead and try to twist it back, and you can go ahead and move it like so and say, oh, okay, here we go. But look at this, like, look at the way everything looks, right? Obviously that topology is not good at all. So we're gonna undo that. Okay, so then what do we need? All right, we cut our circle, but we need to understand that we can redistribute any of these edges so that they're almost like as if they were going to cut the circle going in, and also take in mind what we were doing with the n-gons before. Okay, so we're sort of combining this new technique of, hey, let's cut like into the center. So I'm just going to go basically to like sort of the midpoint of this and cut in like so. And then I'm going to do that here too. I'm going to sort of come into here and go to the midpoint. And then I'll do the same thing out here. I'll come out and then just cut like right into that midpoint. And you don't necessarily have to pick this midpoint per se, but I like to do that because it helps me visualize like what I'm actually doing. And balance it all out in my head, if you will. So we've got kind of the same scenario going here. You know, we can come into here, hit enter, come into here, hit enter. And what we're going to end up doing basically is we'll get rid of all the stuff that we don't need, like the edges that kind of aren't helping, if you will. Actually, yeah, this one's fine too. We can go to there. And then over here, I'm going to bring this all the way over to there, like so. And we're just kind of cutting all the way in. Yeah, I think we got it. Oh, we missed one over here. Okay, let's cut that one in. Okay, so all the ones that I cut are kind of where it's hitting like actually what we need. And then if we go ahead and go to edges here, like we can see all of these type of things we don't actually need. So we can just like control delete, get rid of that. That one's okay. Stuff like this we won't need. Control delete. And it looks like a web. It's a little confusing at first, but eventually, you know, you practice this a little bit and you start understanding the key is to basically you're just cleaning, sort of like cleaning out the stuff that you didn't personally cut. You were just cutting towards the center, and you're getting rid of the stuff that you didn't personally cut. Or I guess you did cut it, but but the stuff that was just like random from following the circle, you know, like we could go ahead and just slide that out like so. We can get rid of this out here. And I'm just basically just gonna clean house. And I end up doing this a lot when we get into like combining shapes and more complex stuff. Sometimes I don't know exactly where I'm going with my edge flow all the time, and I'll have to sort of figure it out. And sometimes I'll just, if I get into a messy area, I'll delete the stuff that looks messy, and then I'll try to redo it. Okay, so we missed this over here. So we got to get these out of here. And while I'm at it, I might as well just get rid of that. Oops, what did I get rid of that I needed? Oh yeah, we need that. Control delete. Okay, So you can see now that the pole that we have like in our normal, like when we just make a cylinder, you're sort of getting that look of that pole. Now you don't have to come right to the center like this. It'll still work even if you don't. You know, and we could go in here and just grab all of these like so. You can get rid of that too. And so actually you kind of have like this clean center. And now if I grab all of these and I circularize, oh, look at that, you know, look at that, not bad. So I can go ahead and take this. I didn't even really need to play with the twist that much. You know, the twist you could also just, you know, you can rotate, by the way. If you forget to do the twist thing and you needed to, you can just rotate it. So I'm going to go ahead and just like scale this up just a little bit, and then I'll hold shift and scale that in a little bit to make an edge loop. I'll delete that out. And then from what we learned from the last one is that if you have some kind of like really stretchy polygons, you might want to redistribute. Like here, this is really long. If you're on a flat surface, this might work fine. But it's when you get into the areas where you need something like someone's going to animate and it needs to flex. Somebody might be doing some kind of VFX algorithm on it, and it's got to like compress like it's like a hard surface car crashing into something. So you need like an even topology. When you get into that kind of scenario, that's when you need to have this stuff like nice and evened out. But if it's flat and it's never going to, you know, get messed with, this would be fine. You don't have to worry about like evening out the topology. But as you can imagine, like something like this, now it is kind of contained. So, you know, you could technically, you know, drop an edge loop just in like that. And now you've got, you know, something where it's going to have a little bit more flexibility and balanced topology. For those certain scenarios that I just mentioned. Let's go ahead and check it. Go like that, and you can see like we would have to hold that corner, but I'm not going to do that for you because you know how to do that. And yeah, so that's about how you would do this. You know, if you want your mesh to be balanced, go ahead and, you know, maybe average your verts out a little bit over here. You know, you can grab these and average verts. I'm sort of like a maniac with I like having like this nice balanced mesh, you know. So that's just the way I am. It's maybe some kind of OCD or something. I don't know. Anyway, okay, so that's one of the harder scenarios. Next, oh yeah, there's more. Next, we're going to learn how to cut this and like another hole. Like what if you want to cut something else over here? Because, you know, that could happen.